this webinar is how to evaluate social innovation, ICT tools for dynamic evaluation. And the webinar is hosted here in the Open Evidence headquarters in Barcelona. And if you want to tweet, you can use the hashtag MDICT. So basically, the Emergence by Design project is based on two imperatives. So on one side, our society is basically pushing towards continued growth, and the engine of growth is innovation, an innovation which is driven by market values rather than societal values, so it can have unintended and socially suboptimal consequences. On the other hand, there are many tools and channels for purely market-driven innovation, but there is a need for both a theory and the new tools to help social innovation face the unique challenges, and there is a need for improving a basic understanding. So basically, there is a need for social innovation, and there are three main questions. How can we assess in real time the impact of social innovation initiatives? How can we evaluate projects evolving in an innovative settings where goals are emergent and changing rather than predetermined and fixed? And how can we anticipate unexpected results of unintended cascade effects? So in order to address this issue, the EMD project has basically conceived the dynamic evaluation, which is a theory and which is basically supported by ICT tools, enabling the collection and elaboration of different information so that the innovation process and its goals can be adjusted and steered towards the creation of social value and a socially sustainable innovation. And this set of ICT tools for dynamic evaluation are aimed to provide real-time feedbacks to initiators and designers of social innovation projects. So this is the program of the webinar. After the introduction by myself, there will be an explanation of the theoretical background and dynamic evaluation theory by Valentina Anzoise. Then there will be the presentation of the ICT tool related to MD by Mauro Mattioli. Then we can have an open discussion with answers and questions.
As Francesca has explained, MD project had very challenging, let's say, issues and open questions. Let me provide just a little of the theoretical background of this project, which was run by ECLT, coordinated by ECLT, that is the European Center for Living Technology. When we talk about innovation processes, so any kind of processes that has aimed to promote radical changes, let's say, we have to think that these kind of environment are characterized by ontological uncertainty. So the horizon of provision is very difficult to, let's say, to detect and to see. So we have to set in motion a number of things like evaluation that can support these kind of processes and to cope with the uncertainties that are emerging in so complex environments. Another of the let's say of the basis of MD is the idea that agents that are acting, taking decisions, making agreements and so on in these kind of environments, regardless of the difficulties to predict and to know what will be in what will happen in such processes, decide to act. And they decide to act because they have the perception that there is a potential between the people that are moving in the same agent artifact space, that is the space composed, well, more than composed, where these processes are taking place. It is composed by agents, by artifacts, by relationships, and so on. So agents perceive that there are potentialities, but these potentialities are grounded on a number of preconditions, like heterogeneity. So there has to be enough differences between people so that they can enrich each other, but not too much, because otherwise they cannot really communicate one each other. Then there is to be a willingness mutual to collaborate, that we call mutual directedness. So people has to be willing to go toward the same direction. And then there has to be an aligned directedness as well. So there has to be a common orientation to do it. So willingness to collaborate and then go into the same direction. And then the permission structure as well has to be adequate. It determines, because it determines the way agents will communicate each other, if they can communicate each other or not, and with whom, and in which modalities. And then in these kind of processes, there has to be at least the opportunity for joint action, because if there is not this opportunity, people won't really have the opportunity to go toward the same space of one of the agent artifact space and try to change it. So these are the main basis of the MD project. Why can't I go on? Okay. And then the other let's say, critical point is that of the cascades of consequences and transformation that similar process induce, that cannot be foreseen a priori. So such processes has to be constructed and designed in such a way that they can develop a capacity of being adaptive and self-reflexive. Because reflexivity and adaptivity is, this is one of the hypotheses that we have, is the key point for a process to be able to face the uncertainties that are emerging. And so these are, let's say, the main and challenging issues that regarded and that were at the core of the MD project. Other hypotheses that have been developed along with these 3-year projects, together with the ontological uncertainty, the generative potential precondition, and so on, are the narratives are important in similar projects because they are the most basic and sure way human beings use to structure what they do not know. So they become critical because they are the way through which agents are able to face ontological uncertainty. Within the Emergence by Design project, we decide that narratives should become, let's say, our unit of analysis, but also our main outcome. So we should also produce narratives that could help people in the deployment of their innovation projects. And all these number of things, so the theoretical background, the specificity of using narratives to support and foster innovation processes, are at the basis of an approach to evaluation that is called dynamic evaluation, which has been developed within the Emergence by Design process, and whose aim is exactly that, enhancing the project's participants, all the project's participants, so the project team, but also the beneficiary of the project, reflexivity, and foster their adaptive change and their mutual learning. The task, let's say the main task of this dynamic evaluation can be summarized, as you can see in this transparency, and they are aimed at the production of iterative feedback loops between the dynamic evaluator and the project team and the participants of the project. So to collect material that are relevant to the processes set in motion by the project, construct maps of the zone of the agent artifact space and attribution space on which the projects want to impact, And then once we have, let's say, this base, this empirical base, the dynamic evaluator can start to develop narratives that describe from, at least that try to describe from different point of view, at least the main points of view that are, let's say, emerging within a project, how the process are playing out and in which direction in the agent artifact space they are moving. Once these narratives have been developed, the dynamic evaluator has to alert the project team if divergences are arising. If not, okay, the projects can go on and so on. Maybe we might need some adaptation, but it is very important that this kind of cross-checking between what are the expectations and the initial objectives of a project team and what is emerging also discursively. So what are people talking about, how they are framing what's going on, and so on. Then dynamic evaluator has to provide feedbacks to project participants and start structuring consultations. So to see if actually people are aligned with this interpretation of how things are going on. And then in the end, to produce a final or more than one project narratives to make retrospective sense of what happened. So again, the dynamic evaluator together with the project team has to go back to the information that have been collected and stored in the DB stands for the database. So to see if actually the sense that has been retrospectively constructed can be confirmed by what we have available in our database and archive, with all the material of the project, with the declaration made by the people, the interviews, and so on. So dynamic evaluation has a lot of things in common with other approach to evaluation like responsive, empowerment, development, and participatory evaluation. So they share a lot of background with these other evaluation approaches, but what distinguishes dynamic evaluation is the critical introduction and the focus on narratives as sources and outcomes of evaluation. And moreover, the other key point, the other key distinction from the other approaches to evaluation is the idea to provide the evaluation practice, the evaluation as a process in itself, and also the tools and the techniques that evaluation uses of a more explicit process ontology. That is what I have tried to outline before, the agent artifact space ontology and the generative potential of relationship. So these are, let's say, the bricks of our methodology, and they inform also all the tools like the MD tool suite that Mauro Mattioli will present in a while, have been designed and developed according to this ontology. So they are a formal version of this ontology. Just to go more into concrete and real case studies, we use a project funded by the Italian Ministry of Environment in 4 mountain communities in southern Italy. That was called Green Communities Project. We decided this to be our test bed for the design and development of the dynamic evaluation, and also to test the tools that we were developing contemporary to the development of the Green Communities Project. So this was a kind of difficult, but I mean, it was also very inspiring and challenging. And this project was aimed very synthetically to the promotion of sustainable communities in southern Italy based on the efficient management of energy and other local resources, like, for example, water, forests, and so on. So 3 main activities were prioritized: the let's say, the delivery of some feasibility studies for energy efficiency, other feasibility studies for sustainable management of the forest and water, a territorial audit, and so on. And then another objective of the project, of this Green Community project, was the development of a rating system that should assess the sustainability of a territory, and so it had to be, let's say, used by the major in order for them to take more, let's say, aware decision regarding the sustainable development of their territory. 4 mountains communities were selected, and a number of experts have been recruited nationally, so at the national level, and then at the local level to run this project. Here you can see a timeline. The project was, was developed all along 2012. So it was a 1-year project. There were public meetings with the experts, with local technicians, and then other projects like in Bologna and in Rome, with a group that was the Green Building Council that was, let's say, providing some, let's say, a framework, a more common framework for the expert in order to develop this rating system, and so on. And all along this project, me and the dynamic evaluator took field notes, had interview with people, collected media contents, had chat, collected with the people that were engaged and involved in this project. We track emails exchange, did the first reports. We delivered the first feedbacks to the people about what in our opinion was going on, and so on. So this was basically how we started, let's say, collecting material and storing them in our database, and this was the way through which we started to detect the first narratives that were, let's say, emerging within this project. And we discovered that there were 3 main narratives that were somehow undermining the happy deployment of the Green Communities project, that I will briefly summarize. One was the magic artifact narratives. So let's say the firm belief that a technical solution could solve the problems of these mountain communities, so feasibility studies, rating system, and so on, would have been enough to, let's say, to solve the development problems of these communities. And then the other narratives that was emerging was the missing bottom, so the lack of community engagement, even if the project was supposedly aimed at stimulating local agents, basically majors, but not only majors. So for example, the ministry, but also the national expert were expecting people to be engaged, but in the end they were not really providing the space for this engagement. So we could really detect that these narratives was actually ongoing, and that was undermining the happy deployment of the Green Communities project. And then a third narrative that was very strong was an internal fight between the managing team. So let's say that there was some disagreement on the correct interpretation of the project's goals, but also, let's say, a fight of power. So these 3 narratives undermined from the very beginning the Green Communities project. But let's go to see the tools that we have developed in order to let's say, collect information about this project, but then also to visualize what was going on, and then try to do what I call a kind of cross-checking between what we have available in our database and what are the narratives that we see and that we can detect as emerging in a project. Let's wait a moment that I go out of the PowerPoint presentation and I go to the online platform. So this is the entry point of our platform. As you can see here, there are different communities. Each community is referred to a project. This is the Green Communities project communities. Here you can see a number of narratives, and here you have what we call the narrative structure that was, let's say, at the basis, at the very abstract level of the Green Communities project. So in a certain way, we can say that the managing team, so the project team, had in mind that the project could go very easily because at the beginning they had an idea about a social problem that had to be solved, and they had to recruit a group of potential partners and with which they had to discuss the problem that has to be solved and how they can recruit other partners and so on. So as in any project, there was at the beginning this phase. So an idea of how to solve a problem and a group of people to be recruited. Then the second phase was that of the alignment. I mean, ideally, there had to be this phase of alignment between the team leader and the other potential partners. And all these partners had to believe that the social problem they had in mind and that they want to, let's say, to solve together was real and that it could be solved. Then the third scene of this narrative structure that we have called the FP project narrative structure, that is very common to not just to the Green Communities project, but to many projects, was that of the conversion. Let's say that once the new project team is funded, so that the project team, the core of the project team is funded, they start recruiting other people that together with the project team start to construct, let's say, to frame the new technical problem and how they believe it will address the social problem. Then the fourth scene, the fourth step, let's say, is that the project team construct a new technical artifact, believing that it can solve the technical problem, and they will continue to believe that the technical problem addresses the social problem. The almost final scene is that of the enacting of the solutions. So agents are recruited in the team, and the project team and the society start to use the technical artifact that has been constructed by the project, let's say. So in the end, everybody is happy. The initial hypotheses have been verified and so on. But as you can see here, we have some comments that says, you have to take care. You have to remember that for this to happen, people have to share the same directness, have to have the same action opportunities, and so on. So this is true at the very abstract level, but then you have to check if in reality, so if people are really enacting this narrative structure. So if in the real life, in the real deployment of the project, they are really behaving in such a way. So this is let's say, the pattern, and through the storyboard, that is this tool that I will show you in a while, we try to see if this structure, that very general structure, this pattern, could be mapped within with the data that we had available in our database, and with the agents and the artifacts and the organization that we had in our database. So as you can see from the script that you have seen 1 minute ago, we passed to a visualization of the different scenes of the narrative structure. So the beginning, the alignment, the conversion, the blueprint solution, and the enacting of the solution. All of them have been visualized. I show them very fast just to show you that it is dynamic. So they have been drawn according to that script. And what we have done is, now that we have visualized the narrative structure, can we check if the partners, the potential partners, the team leader, and so on, were actually present in the Green Communities project? Were they there? Were they acting in the way that it was expected for them to act or not? So we did what is called the mapping, that is this little button here, and we selected the database of the Green Communities project. Here, as you can see, there are other databases that are those referring to other projects and other, let's say, community. So we select the Green Communities project. We have one mapping available that is Green Communities project according to the version of PG, that is the it stands for Paolo Gorisatti, that was the, let's say, the project leader of the Green Communities project. And as you can see here, we tried to do this cross-checking. So the team leader had a name that was this, Tommaso Dal Bosco. The idea of the social problem to be solved was that of mountain local development policy to be developed. And the potential partners were the members of this Green Mountain Club. So a number of people that agreed with the team leader that was recruited, by the team leader in order social problem. And then other people, so these people, Paolo Grisatti, Ugo Baldini, and Giancarlo Corò, that were recruited as partners of this project. Then, in the second phase, the team leader, together with the potential partner, frame the social problem that has to be solved, that is real, and that has to be solved. And then we go to the third phase, here we have the project team that is being formed, other people that are recruited in order to have a team that is complete, enough heterogeneous, and so on. And they start constructing a technical problem that can address the social problem. And the technical problem can be, according to the Green Communities project, can be described as guidelines for the mountain communities assessment. And then, ideally, once the project team has constructed the technical, has constructed the technical problem that addresses the social problem, and then also the technical artifact that you can see here, the rating system that I told you at the beginning, that can solve the technical problem. Okay, here you are close to the happy end of your project, because you have constructed your technical artifact, and the project team and the society can use the technical artifact and, and the technical problem addresses the social problem, the technical artifact can solve the technical problem, and so we are all very happy because the society can resolve its social problem. Okay, so this had to be the let's say, the happy deployment of the Green Communities project. But we realized, and it was quite early, at a quite early stage in the project, that things weren't really going in such a way. And they weren't going in such a way from, let's say, the second, third scene. So, yes, people had been recruited. There were a number of potential partners that thought that the problem was real and it was solvable. But when this group, initial group, has to start recruiting other members, actually the alignment of the directedness hadn't been really checked. So this, the project team hadn't checked if actually all the people that got involved, that got recruited within the project, the Green Communities project, really shared the same vision of how such a problem could have been addressed. And then they never reached this phase. So they never really constructed a technical artifact, because actually there was a great misalignment between the people. And this misalignment was due because actually this project team was not really cohesive, was not really aligned. So there were many delays and things that were expected to arrive very early in the project never arrived. Some people almost never show up. The major that had to be engaged and start using, interacting more with the expert never show up, and so on. So we could detect that other narratives were undermining the project, but the main one was the misalignment between the project team. And so I go back to the storyboard, and I show you very briefly, because I want to give the floor to Mauro to show the technical functioning of the platform. We said, okay, there is another narrative that is undermining the happy deployment of the Green Communities project, that is an internal fight between the managing team. And so we selected another narrative structure, that is the triumvirate. So basically, to manage the power. And we said, okay, let's see if this narrative explain why certain things, or can explain at least a part of the reason why things didn't go as they were expected to go. And it's very easy. So some people that want to control the power decide to make an alliance, because in this way they will be more powerful. So they have this alliance, and then they try to recruit other people in order for the group, the team, to be more strong. But then internal, let's say, fight and disagreement and so on make this alliance die, and in the end also the initial objectives also to disappear. And we tried to see if such a narrative structure was actually corresponding to some of the people that were the key, let's say, the key agents in the Green Communities project. So this is the pattern of the triumvirate, so the narrative structure of the triumvirate. We did the same, so we mapped Green Communities, management team. Okay, so this is the, let's say, the triumvirate narrative structure mapped with the people that were the real key player, key agents in the Green Communities project. And we saw that actually there was a team leader that wants to control a project that was the Green Communities project, and that recruited two people because they were one very trustable and the other one very powerful in order for the project to go and reach the objectives that it had. So they formed an alliance, and then from this alliance that was born, they tried to reinforce this alliance, recruiting potential allies. But at a certain point, this managing team started to think they could do things alone. One started to think, I could do this alone. I don't need all the other two. And one of the agents that was the scientific responsible of the Green Communities project, it was Paolo Gorisatti, started not to trust anymore the project manager that took all the power on his own end. And so the triumvirate, so the alliance, collapsed. So from this collapse, a number of consequences developed for the Green Communities project. So this is the reason why the Green Communities project wasn't an happy end project, because some steps before, let's say, at the beginning of the project undermined its happy deployment. And now I finished, and I give the floor to Mauro.
Okay, Mauro.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Mauro Mattiroli from ICT, and I hope that my screen will be shared soon. And I have left not so much time, so we'll give you just a short overview of the architecture of the tools to leave some time for questions if we want to discuss at the end. Hope you are seeing my screen, and now I will go full screen. Okay. So this is an overview of the components of our system, because we developed by we have different parts developed by different teams in Europe that work together to build this web platform. We have 5 subsystems working together. We have a portal, the yellow one here, that is what we call the social front end, and the social front end that is working together with the other subsystems. The other one is the storyboard. And then we have some beyond the scene systems that are useful for the dynamic evaluators, the document repository, the database of the agent artifact space, and a dashboard for social network analysis, the system in the lower part of the screen. Let's see how we imagine that the interaction will happen. And I think that what we have seen in the Valentina presentation was exactly what is depicted in this first slide. We imagine that the participants in the project and the dynamic evaluator that are in the project themselves too interacts using the social front end and the storyboard. What are those two systems? The social front end is a portal, a web portal that is partitioned by communities, and in each community the participant can interact, and the assigned dynamic evaluator can work together with the participants. They can write and read narratives, stories, and they can see what has been extracted from story in the storyboard system. After I will, if I have some time left, show you something about the language that we use to write narratives, but we have seen the example of what I'm saying in the presentation of Valentina. She was showing us inside a community, the Green Communities community. She was showing us 2 narratives and a related storyboard in A4 language, and she was showing to us how they can propose a mapping between narrative structure to agents and artifacts, real agent and artifacts from the project itself. So this is the kind of interaction we expect. How do we build in the back office, in the background, these mappings and all the things that are needed for analysis by the dynamic evaluator? We are extracting, in fact, from the narrative that we expect the participant to share and to all the imported documents that are coming from the, let's say, the real world. We are pushing all those things inside a document repository that is a system that can keep all the files, the mails, the videos and audios that are coming from the real world. And inside the document repository, we are doing a work of classification and clipping. We are expecting the dynamic evaluator to work on this material, on this text, and select particular phrases that are important and relevant to the analysis that we are building. And using the document repository in conjunction with the database, the dynamic evaluator can start building a map of the agent artifact space inside the database, editing with an interface on the database all the entities inside the database, and then connecting what the dynamic evaluator believes that is a relevant action or relevant agent identity, or the clips that are related with this one. So I can say that Paolo Gurisatti is a very important person in the community, in the Green Community project, and then I can map evidences of this sentence, taking clips from documents in which other people are talking about how exactly we're working the project. The other connection that a dynamic evaluator can use is the one with the dashboard of social network analysis. We have developed a prototype of interaction between the database and some statistical tool that can show analysis, visual form of analysis on the interaction inside the social network of the community, and this can be used to have further ideas and further thoughts of the dynamics working inside the community. At the end, the dynamic evaluator will create storyboards and show storyboards together with the participants, and can map the storyboard to the element in the agent artifact space. And this is what we have seen at work in Valentina's presentation. So before talking, but I don't think I will have enough time about the language, I would like to show you the platform on the web. So let's come back from another browser, of course, to the same portal interface that Valentina has shown. And this is the portal. This is where our users are expected to enter and find their community. Entering a community, a common participant will find just a list of stories. I am an administrator, so I will see different buttons because I am allowed to do different things, but the normal participant will just see the story directory. And a participant can add his own stories to this community and read the story presented in the portal. With the screen sharing, my connection to network is very slow. I'm sorry. Okay, I would like to talk a little bit about the textual part of stories, because we have seen it very fast in Valentina's presentation. Here you can use a normal editor to put images and write the story, but we tried to work on the form of the story, and we decided that it's important to have a synopsis from which you can start, and then write the full-fledged story in the language you choose. Here we have Italian and English together, and write a story in the form of a readable and maybe amusing story to read. But the first part, the synopsis, on which the story is based and hopefully is respected in the textual form of the story, could be extracted directly from a storyboard. So let's try to see in detail what a storyboard is. This is, oh, sorry. I think that the connection of the full screen is not enough. So, okay, I will come back to the presentation in PowerPoint. Go ahead. Okay, the story is written with A4. We call the language A4 because it is based on the mapping of agents, artifacts, attributions, and action. These are the 4 A's of A4. And we draw a story using the editor, and we draw with these symbols, and the symbols are the key of the language. So we start from agents that can be individual agent or group agent. The two symbols represent one person or a group of persons, as it could be clear from the symbol itself. Then we have artifacts that are represented by this kind of, let's say, rock. That is the artifact. And we have relationship that can link together a source and a destination that can be an agent or two agents or an agent and an artifact in each combination. So with this kind of symbols, we can start to design, to draw some first diagram, and the diagram can help to describe in this language a simple period, that is the one, a simple phrase, that is the one that we have on the top. There is a group called X and two individuals A and B. B is the father of A, B is also the chief of X, and A is a member of it. A owns an object called Y, sorry, but I can't see my screen while I talk, so that is a commercial competitor of a similar object. This kind of phrase that I have on the top is represented, as you can see, by symbols and arrows representing the relationship. And the verbs that are linked to the arrows and symbols are expressed in a natural language and can help to understand what the structure that we are writing down represents. So we have the second order of symbols that are attributions and self-attributions. Because in the theory of Lane and Maxwell about the agent artifact space, it's very important how which kind of attribution an agent gives to an artifact or other agents, or what kind of self-attribution an agent gives to itself, to him or herself. So here we have an example of diagram with the attribution. We have an individual A, and there are attributions. So if there is a self-attribution, like this one, this means agent A attributes a property to itself, to himself or herself. If we have something like this, we have an agent giving an attribution to an artifact. In this case, we have an attribution that is true in the context. So everyone consider true that this artifact X is like described in the attribution one. This is another form we can use in our language. So the 4A, that is the most important to describe a narrative, because a narrative has a dynamic, and it's very important to, it was a crucial point of our design, to decide how we can represent the development of a narrative. And we started from the idea that the narrative is divided in scenes, and we need something to describe what in a scene can bring to the development, to the new mood, to the next scene. So we decided to use action. In fact, we have agents, and so the action was a natural extension of agents. So all the agents in a scene can produce action. The actions are directed to something that can be another agent or an artifact. And the actions can be also from the context. Maybe, let's say, an earthquake is an action coming to the artifact house from the world, and not from someone inside the scene. The context, as before, is very important to define where is the boundary of the narrative we are describing. So we need to decide which is the boundary and what comes from outside the boundary. Then we have also some kind of special action that are communicative acts, and we represent them just putting the cursor in the label. And this means that agent A is telling something to agent B. So we are almost finished. The last symbol, because we decided to have a language with very few symbols, and we decided that this was a key factor, to have a language that is easy to understand, to recognize, to recall, and to write and read in the end. So the other symbol we needed was something to say that it's important for the narrative that in a certain scene something is born or something is going away and not coming back. Because the termination of something, an artifact, an agent, is very important in narrative. You can't have a narrative of Red Riding Hood if you don't have the wolf dying in the last scene. You need to have, or the grandma dying before. You need to have person and agents or actors in a more general sense that are going away and their termination is meaningful for the story. So we can use these two symbols, begins creation or termination, that are symbols that means a certain thing, maybe an attribution in this case, is born in a scene. This notation has this meaning. A begins in this scene to attribute N to X. Otherwise, we can have the termination symbol that say that the artifact X, for instance, is discontinued in this scene. And this is the last symbol we have. So, with this set of symbols, we start designing scenes. Scenes are a sequence of diagrams. In fact, we can use more than one diagram in the same scene just to save the screen space, but it's not meaningful. We can use more than one diagram in one scene to have a more clear diagram and using better the screen space, but this is not meaningful. The scenes are meaningful because you can pass from one scene to the other using the action and the transformation, creation and termination of objects in the scenes. So you can be sure in the definition of language that in the scene 2, the objects pointed by some termination symbol will no longer exist, or that something that is born in scene 2 was not present by definition in scene 1. Okay, I think this is enough for my presentation. We have a lot of details, but I don't want to go long. So I will leave space for some question if there is. Do you agree, Francesco?
Thank you, Mauro. Yes. So now we have time for some questions. You can either raise your hand by using the small button that indicates the hand, or you can write your question in the chat or in the questions um, window. So we have the first question by Federica Porcu. Is if the platform has been used in practical cases, or if the platform has been tested. And Mauro, can you reply to this question, please?
Yes, of course, we have tests session with the groups involved in the project. We meet in London 2 times with groups from the Young Foundation, but we also have testing of the platform in the different part of the platform done by the groups of ICT and also from Varsity University. Of course, the platform was tested in different moments of its development because, as Valentina said, we were developing the platform while we were having test of the methodology in the field. So we have tested it in these parts, and some of the parts, I could say now only the social network analysis are still prototypes, so they are not tested. The social network analysis is not tested. I don't know if Valentina wants to add something about it.
No, I completely, I just confirm what Mauro just said. But I mean, the main case study that have been used to test the platform was the Green Communities project. So we didn't have time to show you, but for example, the database of the Green Communities project has been filled, like the archive, and then with the main narratives that have been written are those regarding the Green Communities project. So these projects have been the main tester of the platform, but then also our partners from Warsaw, from Cannisland and so on, tested in different phases the different part of the platform. That's all.
And which kind of developments do you envisage in order to make the platform more used, more widespread, in order to increase the take-up of the platform?
Well, no, even using the, this is a research project. So in the while where we are using the platform, we discover any time some kind of new field we can develop. For instance, it's interesting to map the storyboard versus the database, as we have seen in the example from Valentina. But it could be really interesting to map also the storyboard to the clipping tool, because it could be very interesting to have some reference, direct reference to the point in which in an interview someone said that maybe the free rate is a pattern that is starting or convincing for him or her. So this kind of development, but this is just an example. We have a lot of these new field that we discovered while we were working. Another example is that we started writing down narratives coming from the communities. But after this, we discovered that there is some pattern that is repeating in the narratives, and we discovered that we were able to write down also diagrams about this pattern that are higher level, and those patterns are growing to a much higher level if you go ahead. You can synthesize much of the stories in very simple, definite pattern. So a study about this kind of pattern and how we can reuse patterns in different narrative could be very interesting. It could be a perspective of a further study.
Okay. Is there any other question? from any other from the audience? Okay, no, I don't see any other questions, so I think we can close it here. So basically, in order, if anybody has any other questions that wants to raise laterly, they are able to do it by sending mail to my email address, so fmuredu@openevidence.com. And so we close the webinar here, and thank you for being present, and have a nice day.